I'm Josh, and I've been lucky enough to own some of the highest end premium laptops released this year, including the Aero 17 HDR, the Macbook Pro 16, and of course the Razer Blade Studio. In this video, we are going to have a lot of fun as we're going to compare these super high-end laptops. These are laptops for those people looking for the most powerful portable device that runs cool, quiet, and looks great. These are for those willing to sacrifice nothing, where price really isn't a factor. Each of these laptops have 32 gig of RAM, a 1TB SSD, and cost between $3,000 and $4,000 US, specs on screen. Before we get started, congratulations for shopping in this price range, as these are all spectacular devices. This is going to be a mostly qualitative comparison on the differences between these machines. If you want additional depth on each of them, I will post my reviews of the Aero 17 HDR and the Razer Blade Studio in the description below. I haven't posted a review of my MacBook Pro 16, but you'll definitely be hearing my thoughts on it in this video. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe, click the like button, and hit the notification bell. These videos take a long time to make, and it motivates me to create more of them for you. I'm going to first break down the key differences between the three laptops, and then I'm going to sum up by talking about which you should buy if you are in the market for a super high-end laptop. The display. The good news here is that they are all very good displays. My ranking is number 1, the Aero 17 HDR. It is the brightest, most color accurate display I've ever used, and the 17-inch form factor is very luxurious. It's so great that I run it on 175% scaling, which means I see more content than on a standard 1920 by 1080 display. The MacBook Pro 16 is hot on its tail. It is not quite as bright, but OS X does an excellent job making the screen feel as roomy as on the Aero's bigger display. And the 16 by 10 aspect ratio is certainly helpful, especially in applications like Word. The Blade Studio comes in last here. The smaller 15-inch display is not as comfortable to use, and the display isn't nearly as bright as its competitors. It is OLED, so it's great for watching movies, but would you spend $4,000 to get a device for that? That being said, the OLED display is helpful when editing if you have an external IPS monitor plugged in, as then you have the best of both worlds. In the one setup, you can tell what your content will look like both on an OLED type display, which many premium smartphones have, and an IPS display, which most laptops have. Without this, I frequently watch my videos on my phone to check how they look prior to publishing, which is a time-consuming step. Also, I find the extremely fast response time and high contrast of the OLED panel helpful for gaming, although it doesn't outweigh the bigger screen of the Aero 17, which I personally find more immersive. The other pro is that the Blade has a touchscreen, but meh. Are you actually going to use a touchscreen on a laptop like this? I think not. Keyboard. The Aero 17's keyboard is the winner here. It is far and away the most comfortable, even if the secondary function keys don't light up and you have to set them to different colors to differentiate them. The MacBook Pro 16's keyboard, which everyone is raving about, is okay. Ignore the hype. Yes, it's a step up from the Butterfly keyboard, but it is still a shallow keyboard at 1mm. Compare that to the 1.55mm of travel on my beloved Surface Book 215 or any Lenovo ThinkPad, and it's disappointing. Also, if you do use a Windows keyboard for, say, an office job, it can be frustrating to switch between the Mac and the PC layouts. It is usable, but it isn't enjoyable. The Razer, on the other hand, is a disgrace. The keyboard is very uncomfortable to use. It's extremely low travel, and the key placement on the right side is horrid, causing frequent mispresses. My ranking is number 1, the Aero 17, number 2, the MacBook Pro 16, and number 3, the Blade Studio. Trackpad. Easy one here. Number 1, the MacBook Pro 16. It's the only laptop out there where the trackpad feels as good as using a mouse. The Aero 17 and the Razer Blade Studio tie for second place, as both are very good. The press on the Aero is more satisfying, but the glide on the Blade is smoother. Sound quality. The MacBook Pro 16 is in a league of its own. Nothing can touch it here. No words can describe the experience of listening to sound from these speakers, especially if you are directly in front of the laptop. My first reaction was, is this for real? It's completely immersive and negates the need for a Bluetooth speaker. The Aero 17 and Blade Studio are both passable, neither gets particularly loud, and the quality isn't great. I'll give second place to the Blade Studio, as at least its speakers are forward-facing, and last to the Aero 17, as its speakers are downward-facing and sound becomes muffled if you have the laptop sitting on a blanket when in bed. Honestly though, this really doesn't do justice to just how far Apple is ahead in this category. Fan noise and heat. Let me start off by saying the Aero 17 HDR collapses versus the other two. Overall, its fans definitely run quieter than most gaming laptops, but its fans are louder and higher pitched than the competitors in this high-end content creation category, which is annoying. They also pulsate, as in they regularly turn on and off for no reason, even when on silent mode and not much is running on the laptop with low CPU temperatures. It's very annoying, and this is the main reason why my Aero 17 spends a lot of its days in the cupboard rather than out on the table. The only pro for the Aero 17 is that it never gets warm to the touch. It is very comfortable to use under load. The MacBook Pro 16 wins in this category. It is almost always silent on automatic fan curve, and the fan curve is very configurable if you use an external app, links below. If you want the laptop to run cooler under load, just bump up the fan curve. The Razer, though, falls somewhere between the two. It is frequently silent when not running intensive tasks, but it's not as quiet as the MacBook Pro 16. CPU performance, easy one here. The Aero 17 wins with its well-cooled overclockable 8-core CPU. The MacBook Pro 16 comes in second as it doesn't come near to reaching its full turbo boost potential. The Razer last, as it only has a 6-core CPU and is power limited to 45 watts, so it doesn't even make the most of that CPU. In CPU tasks, I really wish Razer let owners bump the power a little higher, as I have seen substantially better performing 9750H CPUs. GPU performance, Razer is clearly on top with its Quadro 5000 Max-Q, which performs similar to the 2080 Max-Q. The Aero 17 is next with its 2070 Max-Q, and the MacBook Pro 16 is dead last with the 5500M 8GB. That card performs a little better than the 1650 Max-Q, but substantially worse than the other cards. In real-world use though, gaming. If you are planning to play any AAA games on high settings, your choice is really only the Blade Studio or the Aero 17. As these screens are capped at 60 FPS, if you plan to play games off the laptop's display at 1080, there will be no noticeable difference between these graphics cards. Both will sit at 60 FPS. If you plan to plug in an external monitor with a higher refresh rate or higher resolution, say 1440, the Blade will perform better with the Quadro 5000 Max-Q. And content creation. I found the higher performing CPU of the Aero 17 negated the performance differences of the 2070 Max-Q to the Quadro 5000 in the Blade for standard content creation tasks like encoding a 4K video. There are those of you who truly need the 16 gig of RAM in the Blade Studio's Quadro 5000 for specialist applications. That is a specific use case, and you'll certainly know if you're one of those people. Portability, including battery life. Easy win here to the MacBook Pro 16. It is almost an identical size to the prior generation MacBook Pro 15, which was already small and very lightweight for such a device. Here it is slotting into the MacBook Pro 15 inches sleeve. It is also the only device that has USB-C charging, which is super handy as the chargers are smaller, and if you aren't planning to use the graphics card on the go, you can buy a smaller 60-watt charger, which will be plenty. When it comes to battery life, the MacBook Pro is also the only one to get you past 6 hours reliably. Even though the Aero 17 is incredibly small and light for a 17-inch laptop, and its battery life is slightly better than the Blade Studio, it is still less portable than a 15-inch Blade Studio. So I'll give the Blade 15 my runner-up and the Aero 17 last in this category. Build quality. Apple still wins here with Razer a close second and the Aero 17 third. All are very solid devices here though. Ports and expandability. The Blade Studio and Aero 17 ties with excellent port selection and a fast SD card reader. The Aero 17 edges out the Blade with a couple of additional ports such as an extra Type-C port. But the Blade has a better SD card reader as the card goes fully into the reader and doesn't stick out much. The MacBook Pro 16 is a little frustrating here. It really would have been nice to have at least one Type-A and an SD card reader, as it is aimed at content creators. Stability and warranty. None of these laptops have ever crashed on me. They are all very stable. When it comes to support, I'm going to go with Apple first for its excellent Apple Care and the ability to just walk into a store. Gigabyte second, I have spoken to their support several times and they have been knowledgeable and helpful. Razer last. There are many recent horror stories online about their support. Just an FYI, Razer only offers support through their live text chat, which can be very frustrating. This is another reason why I felt uncomfortable keeping that laptop. The only saving grace is if the laptop was purchased at a Best Buy, you can buy Geek Squad protection on it. Miscellaneous. The MacBook Pro wins here with the webcam in the right place and Touch ID working perfectly every time. The Blade Studio was a close second, even though it has face unlock and the webcam is also in the right place. Its webcam quality is a little worse than the Mac's. The Aero 17 though is dead last here with a shocking webcam and fingerprint login that for me rarely works. To wrap up where we stand, if I gave 3 points every time a laptop won in a category, 2 points every time it came second, and 1 point when it came third, this is where we'd stand. The MacBook Pro 16 was the clear winner. To be honest though, this methodology doesn't really make sense at all, as it massively depends on your use case. Here is exactly what you should buy. If you plan to play modern AAA games at high settings, then the MacBook Pro 16 is out of the equation. It's down to the Razer Blade Studio or the Aero 17 HDR. If you will use the laptop plugged into an external keyboard, mouse, and monitor, get the Razer Blade Studio. The fans turn off completely when idle for a silent experience. The external keyboard and monitor will negate the crappy Razer keyboard and having to edit video on a 15-inch screen. It's also more portable, plus the Quadro 5000 runs like an RTX 2080 Max-Q, so you'll get really great gaming performance on that external monitor, either at 1440 resolution or a high refresh rate. If you don't plan to use the laptop with an external keyboard, monitor, and mouse, the Aero 17 HDR is the winner and what you should be getting. If you don't plan to play AAA games at high settings and you travel a lot, get the MacBook Pro 16. It is the smallest and lightest of the bunch, plus with decent battery life and USB-C charging, it is super convenient to travel with. That's all for today, folks. If you like this video, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button, hit the like, tell your friends about the channel, and if you want to ask a question, reply with comments or join the Discord chat. Till next time, I'll catch you later.